Minister the very best of luck in your new role. And I know this, Deputy Harkin, I don't know whether you're taking this question, but it's in relation to Galway and a campus of further education. And I mean, I was delighted when this announcement was finally made back in November, the 2022 November. And they announced that there would be a third, an adult campus, a campus of the future, and a great need for it because we're renting so many properties in Galway. So I'd appreciate an up-to-date on that because I think it's slipping.
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Sure. Thank you, Deputy. I'm aware of your interest, indeed, Minister Harkin's interest in all items on the West Coast as well, and this development no less. So, Deputy, I know you're well aware that Galway Roscommon ETB is being supported by SUDAS in developing its preliminary business case proposal under the FET College of the Future Major Projects Fund. The proposal put forward by Galway Roscommon ETB relates to the development of a new state-of-the-art FET campus on a site adjacent to the Merview training facility. Due to the close proximity of this training college to ATU, Atlantic Technological University, and the University of Galway, the new development proposes to strengthen tertiary provision in Galway City and in the wider region. I understand GRETB has submitted its business case proposal to SUDAS for evaluation, which is currently targeted to take place in early April. Following evaluation, business cases that meet the evaluation criteria will advance then to the next stage of development, pre-tender, project design, planning and procurement strategy. The funding envelope referred to by the Deputy relates to part of my department's overall capital NDP allocation and provides for initial funding for the establishment of 4 new capital programmes. The FET College of the Future Major Projects Fund was established to address existing deficits in FET infrastructure, support projects that reform and facilitate consolidation and integration of further education and training. The Strategic Infrastructure Upgrade Fund was established to support smaller scale investments in existing FET infrastructure. The Technological Sector Strategic Projects Fund was put in place to provide additional capacity to strengthen the role of TUs as drivers of regional development, while the Higher Education Strategic Infrastructure Fund was open to all higher education institutions to co-fund strategic projects to a maximum of 50% to deliver high-quality infrastructure for higher education institutions. Those capital investment programmes have supported an ambitious transformation agenda across both sectors and will help ensure that our campuses are flexible and future-proofed to meet the needs of our learners and flexible teaching staff. So in terms of the allocation of the overall funding, the overall approach which you've asked me, I know it's kind of a multi-part question, Deputy, but in terms of the, I suppose, the big line items there, I hope that gives some information.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy.
Thanks, Minister, for the background, and I have the background and I welcome that. My concern is that the slippage in relation to this project, and so the ETB in Galway is the second biggest. It's the second biggest in the country. It's unique in that it covers the Gaeltacht area and the islands as well. It has 19 post-primary schools and 2 community national schools, and a huge amount of buildings rented at an enormous cost in an unsustainable manner for the adult education. And so we were delighted when this was announced, but a preliminary business case was submitted and the ETB did everything right back in January 24. Then they were told to come back again. They were told to reduce their 25,000 square metres to 10,000 inexplicably, and then they were asked again to reduce it further and they said no. They stood up and they said no, our vision was for 25,000. Now you're making us do it at 10,000. And now I'm not sure where we are in relation to that. So if you could give some clarity in relation to when this will be delivered and what was the reason for the reduction.
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy. Just for the record that Galway Roscommon ETB has received, I think it's 1 million funding just in the current year, or is already earmarked, even aside from this project, 1,030,000. But I'm aware that there was a request for the square footage to be reduced also. I think there was a 25,000 square metre application. The college was invited to submit a revised business case, and that followed. There was a meeting with SUDAS and department officials with all 12 ETBs included in this package, including Galway Roscommon, in April and May 2024. And each ETB gave a presentation on their proposals. Following those meetings, each ETB, including Galway Roscommon, were provided with feedback in relation to affordability, value for money and relevant regional and national FET policy objectives. And based upon that, all ETBs were asked to refine their business case proposals to ensure that they delivered on their priority infrastructure requirements within available funding parameters. And ETB were invited to submit their proposals to SUDAS for evaluation. GRETB have recently submitted their business case proposal, and that is the evaluation scheduled for the first week in April. So we're not too far off a milestone, Deputy.
Thank you, Minister.
And I know Minister Harkin's following this with great interest as well, but that's where it's at. So it's effectively next week or next fortnight.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Connolly.
I welcome this date, Minister. I welcome that. But given the history, given that they were asked to revise downwards twice, their plan and their vision, let me say we attend regularly on updates with the GRTB. I keep calling it the old VEC, but in any event, we attend cross-party support for this. And you see what's happening here. If they're forced to do that, and it looks like they're being forced to accept the 10,000, even though they were being asked to even reduce it more. For example, phase 2 then, there'll be a phase 2 sometime in the future that was never anticipated. It was anticipated it would be all one project. And what's going into phase 2? Apprenticeships, the Irish language, and the potential there to upskill people in the public sector because of the Official Languages Act and many others. And because Galway is a bilingual city, and because the Gaeltacht comes under the remit of what I call the VEC. So for the life of me, I can't understand what analysis was done in relation to the request to reduce and the order really to reduce. And so April is the deadline for yes or no to the business case. Is that it? And then the other steps
Thank you,
come
Deputy.
in.
Tara.
Yes, thank you, Deputy. Deputy, it would be unhelpful for me to comment on the particular facility in terms of the details of it, because I'm not informed on it, and it would be unfair to the project. But I take your point about a phase 2 will inevitably follow, and it's going to provide undoubtedly important services. And I think your suggestion is, wouldn't it be better to do the whole thing at once, if I understand you correctly. And look, that's a natural and intuitive argument to make. I have seen it happen elsewhere, that sometimes projects can be overly ambitious, and I'm not making any comment of this particular project, but in the general sense, and have had a large scope and a large vision, but ultimately have failed to get off the ground or failed to get to where they need to be. Sometimes it's better to take it in chunks and take it in stages and actually meet funding with ambition at a moment in time, address the immediate needs, and then look to build upon that. So look, that's just I suppose, there's horses for courses, and different approaches can be taken in different projects. But I know that SOTUS is engaging intensively with GRETB, and as I say, that process should progress next month.